Be me, 28. Software engineer at a mid-size fintech company. Life is simple, organized, predictable. Apartment in a decent part of the city, 2 bedrooms. One bedroom is mine, the other has been empty since my last roommate moved out 3 months ago. Rent isn't killing me alone, but having someone split it would be nice. Post an ad online, nothing fancy. Room available, clean, quiet, no drama. Famous last words, get a few responses. One guy who wanted to know if he could bring his pet iguana and occasional ferret. One woman who asked if the apartment was spiritually cleansed. Then there's the application from someone named Margot Haynes. Her message is 3 paragraphs long. Mentions she's a graduate student in gender studies. Works part-time at a nonprofit that does community organizing. Says she's looking for a respectful, boundaried living situation. Uses the word boundaried like it's a normal thing people say. But her references check out, she has income. She's not bringing ferrets. Good enough. Margot moves in on a Saturday. She arrives in a beat-up Subaru covered in bumper stickers. The future is female, next to abolish landlords, next to a sticker of a cat wearing sunglasses. She's carrying a box labeled Theory in thick black marker. It's full of books. Behind that, another box labeled More Theory. Then a third box that just says Praxis. I don't ask what's in the Praxis box. Some things are better left unknown. First impression of Margot. She's about 5'6". Has this wild curly hair that seems to operate independently of gravity. Wears oversized flannel shirts like she's personally keeping the 90s alive. Has a nose ring and glasses that are slightly too big for her face. When she talks with her entire body, hands moving, eyebrows lifting, head tilting. And it's like watching someone conduct an orchestra, only she's explaining why she chose this apartment. I liked that your ad didn't use the word chill. Men who say chill are usually the opposite. I nod like this makes sense. It kind of does, actually. First week goes fine. Margot keeps to her room mostly. She has a strict morning routine that involves green tea, journaling, and what sounds like a podcast about dismantling systems. I can hear it through the wall sometimes. Phrases like hegemonic masculinity drift through while I'm eating cereal. Interesting breakfast companion, this wall. Second week, things start to shift. I come home from work and Margot is sitting at the kitchen table with a notebook. She looks up at me the way a doctor looks at an x-ray. Ethan, can I ask you something? Sure. When was the last time you cried? I stand there holding my keys and a bag of takeout Thai food. I don't know, maybe when my dog died in college? She writes something in her notebook. And when was the last time you expressed a vulnerable emotion to another person? I look at my pad Thai. I told the delivery guy I was having a rough week. He gave me extra peanut sauce. Margot stares at me for a long time, writes more in the notebook. We have work to do, she says. What follows is a slow, relentless campaign. Not mean, not hostile, not even particularly aggressive, just persistent. Margot has decided that I am a project, specifically that I am a man who has been emotionally stunted by patriarchal conditioning. Her words, not mine. She says it like she's reading a diagnosis, and she has prescribed herself as the cure. It starts with the books. She leaves them in common areas like landmines. I go to sit on the couch, and there's a copy of The Will to Change by Bell Hooks on the cushion. I open the fridge for a beer, and there's a zine called Feelings Aren't Weakness, Bro taped to my six-pack. I find a printout about toxic masculinity and emotional labor tucked into my running shoes. She's not subtle. Subtlety is not in the Praxis box, apparently. I try to be a good sport about it. I even read some of the Bell Hooks book. It's actually not bad. I tell Margot this over dinner one night. She looks at me like I just told her I discovered fire. Ethan, that's huge. That's growth. I literally just read a book. But okay, the thing about Margot is she's not wrong about everything. She's not even wrong about most things. It's just the delivery, and the frequency, and the unwavering certainty that she knows exactly what's broken inside me, and exactly how to fix it. It's like living with a very passionate, very well-read fire alarm. Always going off, always pointing at something. Month 2. Margot starts commenting on how I interact with people. I have a buddy named Jake come over to watch a game. Jake and I do what Jake and I always do. Sit on the couch, eat chips, yell at the screen, occasionally grunt acknowledgments at each other. Basic friendship operating system. Margot watches this from the kitchen like she's observing wildlife. After Jake leaves, she sits me down. You and Jake communicated for 3 hours and didn't say a single emotionally substantive thing to each other. We said plenty. I said nice pass. He said garbage ref. I said yeah, very substantive. She pinches the bridge of her nose. Ethan, do you even know how Jake is doing, emotionally? He seemed fine. He ate most of the chips. Chip consumption is not an emotional barometer. It kind of is, though. I'm starting to find this funny, which is probably not the reaction she's going for. But there's something about the absolute seriousness with which Margot approaches my emotional education. Like she's training me for the Olympics of feelings. And I keep showing up to practice in the wrong shoes. Month 3, the tension shifts. Not in a bad way, in a weird way. We've developed a rhythm. Margot cooks on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I cook on Mondays and Wednesdays. Weekends are fend for yourself. She makes these elaborate grain bowls with like 17 ingredients. I make spaghetti with jar sauce. She watches me dump Prego into a pot and looks like she's witnessing a small crime. But she eats it anyway. Sometimes she adds hot sauce and says, "This is an act of resistance." I don't know what she's resisting, but the spaghetti seems to survive. She starts telling me about her life. Not in the analytical way she talks about gender theory, in a real way. Her parents divorced when she was 12. Her dad was the kind of guy who never said what he felt and then one day just left. Her mom raised her and her sister alone. She watched her mom work 2 jobs and never complain and never ask for help. That's why I care about this stuff, she says one night, sitting on the kitchen counter with her feet dangling. Because I watched what happens when men don't know how to be honest about what they need. I don't have a joke for that. I just listen. She looks surprised that I'm listening, like she expected me to deflect. I don't. Something changes after that conversation. The book landmines slow down. The lectures get shorter. Instead, she just talks to me, like a person, not like a case study. I notice things about her I didn't before. The way she laughs when she's genuinely surprised. Not her usual sharp wit laugh, but this softer one. The way she tucks her hair behind both ears when she's nervous. The way she hums while she cooks, always slightly off-key, always completely unself-conscious. The fact that she owns exactly 1 pair of nice shoes and only wears them when she has presentations. The fact that she keeps a photo of her mom on her nightstand and sometimes talks to it when she thinks I can't hear. Month 4. I come home from work after a genuinely terrible day. Project got scrapped. 6 weeks of code just gone. My manager delivered the news with the enthusiasm of someone ordering lunch. I walk in the door and just stand there. Margot is on the couch reading. She looks up and something in my face must register because she puts the book down immediately. What happened? And I don't know why. Maybe it's all those books she left around. Maybe it's the conversations we've been having. Maybe I'm just tired. But I actually tell her. Not the surface version, not the work stuff it's fine version. I tell her I'm frustrated and tired and feel like I've been running in place for years and nothing I build ever stays built. I say it all standing in the doorway, still holding my bag. Margot listens without interrupting. When I'm done, she says, "That sounds really hard, Ethan." No analysis, no theory, no suggested reading. Just that. And it helps more than anything in the Praxis box ever could. She makes me tea. Not green tea, actual normal tea, like she's been keeping regular tea hidden specifically for emergencies. We sit on the couch and she tells me about the time her thesis advisor trashed 6 months of her research and she cried in a campus bathroom for an hour. Then I went back and rewrote the whole thing better, she says, because spite is an underrated motivator. I laugh. She smiles. And for a second, the apartment feels different. Warmer or something. Smaller in a good way. Month 5. I should mention the whiteboard incident. Margot bought a whiteboard for the kitchen, said it was for household communication. First week it had a chore schedule on it. Totally normal. Second week she added a question of the day section. Questions like, what's something you're grateful for today? And name an emotion you felt this week that wasn't fine. I write hungry as an emotion. She adds a subsection called Hunger is not an emotion, Ethan. By the 3rd week, the whiteboard has become a battlefield. She writes inspirational quotes. I write increasingly absurd responses underneath. She writes, vulnerability is strength. I write, so is bench pressing 225 pounds. She writes, emotional walls protect nothing. I write, they protect the candy I hid in my room. She erases mine every morning, I add new ones every night. It's the most fun I've had in years, and I refuse to examine why. The whiteboard war escalates. She starts leaving me daily emotional check-in prompts. How are you really feeling today? Use more than one word. I write 2 words. She writes back, I'm going to burn this whiteboard. I write, that sounds like an emotion, Margot. Good job. She doesn't erase that one. I catch her smiling at it when she thinks I'm not looking. One night, we're both in the kitchen at the same time. She's making one of her grain bowls. I'm microwaving leftover spaghetti. The microwave hums, the rice cooker clicks. She's got her sleeves rolled up and there's quinoa dust on her forearm. Ethan, can I tell you something without you making it a joke? I can try. I think you're actually a really good person. I think you just learned somewhere along the way that good people aren't supposed to need things from other people. The microwave beeps. I don't move to open it. Where'd you learn that? She asks. And I don't know why I answer honestly, but I do. My dad, probably. He was the kind of guy who'd break his arm and drive himself to the hospital because he didn't want to bother anyone. That's not strength. I know that now. She looks at me and something passes between us that I don't have a theoretical framework for. The microwave beeps again, more insistently this time. Moment passes, but it doesn't really. I catch myself doing something I never expected. I'm at work and Jake messages me asking if I want to grab beers. I write back, yeah, also, how are you doing? Like, actually? Jake sends back 3 question marks, then after a pause. Honestly, not great. My mom's been sick and I haven't told anyone. We end up talking for an hour. Real talking, not grunt and chips talking. When I tell Margot about it later, she gets this look on her face. It's not smug. It's not, I told you so. It's something softer. Pride, maybe, or relief. Like she's been planting seeds and one of them finally broke through the concrete. I'm not going to say I was right, she says. But you were right. I know, but I'm not going to say it. She grins and throws a pillow at me. I catch it and throw it back. This is flirting, I realize. Oh no. Month 6. The realization that I might have feelings for my feminist roommate hits me like a bus driven by irony. She's everything I never would have looked for. She argues with me about everything. She rearranges my bookshelf by ideological progression without asking. She once gave me a 15-minute breakdown of why the way I load the dishwasher reflects broader patterns of male entitlement to shared spaces. She is, by every metric my past self would have used, completely impossible. And yet, I find myself looking forward to coming home. Not to the apartment, to wherever she is in it. The kitchen counter where she sits and reads. The couch where she falls asleep with highlighters in her hair. The bathroom door she talks through while I'm brushing my teeth because she just remembered a crucial point about something. I'm in trouble. The problem is I have no idea if she sees me as anything other than her reclamation project. The emotionally stunted man she's been renovating like a house on one of those home improvement shows. Open concept feelings, shiplap vulnerability, exposed brick authenticity. Am I a person to her or a before and after photo? I start pulling back a little. Not dramatically, not coldly, just carefully. I stop lingering in the kitchen after dinner. I go to my room earlier. I put headphones on. I'm doing what I've always done with emotions I can't manage. Building walls. The exact thing Margot has spent 6 months trying to teach me not to do. She notices in about 48 hours, because of course she does. She knocks on my bedroom door one night. Ethan, are you avoiding me? No, just busy with work stuff. You're lying. Your voice does this thing when you lie. It gets slightly higher. No, it doesn't, I say, voice slightly higher. She opens the door and stands there in her flannel pajamas and her 2 big glasses. Her hair is doing the gravity-defying thing. She looks ridiculous and beautiful, and I hate this. What's going on? She says. And her voice is different now. Not analytical, not clinical. Worried I could deflect. Old me would deflect. Old me would say nothing and put the headphones back on and let the moment pass like every other moment I've ever let pass because feelings are complicated and silence is simple. But I'm not old me anymore. Partly because of her. Mostly because of her. Entirely because of her. I think I have feelings for you, I say, just like that. No preamble, no build-up, no careful framing. Just the raw, stupid truth sitting in the air between us like a grenade with the pin pulled. Margot blinks, then blinks again. She opens her mouth, closes it, opens it again. For the first time since I've known her, Margot Haynes has no words. The woman who has a theoretical framework for everything is standing in my doorway in flannel pajamas with absolutely nothing to say. This is simultaneously the most terrifying and satisfying moment of my life. You, she starts. Yeah, since when? A while. Define a while. I don't know. Maybe since the tea. The tea? The night my project got canceled. You made me regular tea. You'd been hiding regular tea. I wasn't hiding it. I just keep it for emergencies. You had emergency tea, Margot. She's blushing now, which I didn't think was possible. Her whole face turns pink and she pushes her glasses up her nose, and I can see her brain trying to process this through every analytical lens she owns and coming up empty. This is, she starts, complicated? I was going to say unexpected. Is it, though? She stares at me, and then something shifts in her expression. The armor she wears, the intellectual distance, the constant analysis, it drops, just for a second. And underneath it is someone who is just as scared of this as I am. I have feelings for you too, she says. Since when? Since you actually read the bell hooks book and didn't make it weird. That was month 1. Yeah. Margot, that's been the whole time. I'm aware, Ethan, thank you. We stand there looking at each other like two people who just discovered the floor is lava and the only safe spot is where the other person is standing. She steps into my room, sits on the edge of my bed. I sit next to her. There's about 6 inches of space between us that feels like it contains the entire history of every argument we've ever had about dishwasher loading and emotional availability. I don't know how to do this, she says quietly. The woman who has a framework for everything doesn't have a framework for this? Shut up. That's not very emotionally vulnerable of you. She shoves my shoulder and laughs. That real laugh, the soft, surprised one. And I know this is going to be chaos. Absolute, beautiful, annotated with footnotes chaos. The next morning, I wake up and she's already made coffee. Not green tea, not some ethical single-origin pour-over ceremony. Regular coffee. In my mug. She's sitting at the kitchen table reading, but she looks up when I come in and smiles. Not the analytical smile, not the I'm about to educate you smile. Just a smile. Morning, she says. Morning. I sit down across from her and she slides the coffee toward me. Our fingers touch for a second on the mug. She doesn't pull away. Neither do I. Over the next few weeks, we figure it out. It's not smooth. Nothing with Margot is smooth. Our first actual date, she takes me to a documentary screening about labor rights. I buy her popcorn and she gives me a 10-minute whispered commentary about the exploitation of concession stand workers. The people behind us are thrilled. I take her to a taco truck and she says it's the most honest dining experience available under capitalism. I'll take that as a compliment. Second date, I try to plan something romantic. Rooftop bar, city lights, the whole thing. She shows up wearing her flannel shirt and combat boots. Everyone else is in cocktail attire. She does not care even slightly. She orders the cheapest beer on the menu and says the markup on the others is class warfare in liquid form. The bartender looks at me with sympathy. I look at Margot laughing at her own joke against the city skyline. She's the most beautiful person in the room and she has no idea. Third date, she cooks for me. And by cooks for me, I mean she makes a 5-course meal using only ingredients from the farmer's market. Each course comes with a brief history of the agricultural practices involved. The salad has a land rights lecture. The soup has a water privatization sidebar. By dessert, I know more about fair trade chocolate than any human should. The food is incredible. I tell her this and she says, complimenting the cook is a gendered expectation, but thank you. I love this ridiculous woman. We argue about everything we've always argued about. But now the arguments end differently. Instead of retreating to our rooms, we end up on the couch talking until 2 a.m. Sometimes about big things, sometimes about nothing. She tells me her theory about how rom-coms have done more damage to emotional expectations than any single cultural force. I tell her she's wrong because she cried during one last weekend. She throws a pillow at me again. I'm starting to think pillow throwing is her love language. Month 8. Jake comes over again. This time he brings his girlfriend, Dana. The 4 of us sit around eating pizza and actually talking, like real human conversation. Jake tells a story about his mom's recovery and gets choked up. Dana holds his hand. Nobody makes it weird. Margot catches my eye across the table and gives me this tiny nod. Like, look what you built. Look what's possible when you stop performing fine and start being real. After they leave, Margot is doing dishes and I'm drying. She has soap suds on her nose. She's humming off key. Hey, Margot. Yeah? Thanks for leaving those books around. She pauses, hands in the water. Even the zine taped to your beer? Especially the zine taped to my beer. She laughs and flicks water at me. I retaliate. The kitchen gets wet. We don't care. Month 10. Margot's lease on her room is coming up. We've been doing this thing where we're technically still in separate bedrooms. She sleeps in hers, I sleep in mine. But most nights, one of us ends up on the other's bed watching something on a laptop until we fall asleep. It's domestic and ridiculous, and I love it. One morning I wake up and she's asleep next to me with a highlighter still in her hand and a journal article about radical vulnerability in modern relationships on her chest. She fell asleep peer reviewing. This is the most Margot thing that has ever happened. I bring up the lease over breakfast. So, your room, you could renew, or... She looks at me over her glasses. Or you could just move your books into my room and we turn yours into an office. She considers this. You're asking me to consolidate our living space as a romantic gesture. I'm asking you to move into my room, Margot. That's a significant step in relationship progression. Are you going to analyze this or answer? She grins. Both. The answer is yes. The analysis will follow in written form. She actually does write an analysis, 3 pages. Double-spaced, titled On Cohabitation as Praxis, A Personal Reflection. It has citations. I frame it and hang it in what is now her office. She pretends to be annoyed. She's not annoyed. The move takes one afternoon because she's literally moving 15 feet. But she treats it with the seriousness of an international relocation. She organizes the bookshelves by subject. She rearranges the closet with what she calls equitable space distribution. She hangs a small print above the bed that says, "The personal is political." I hang a print next to it that says, "Live, laugh, love," specifically to make her eye twitch. She threatens to throw it away every single day. It's still there 6 months later. The thing about Margot is she didn't fix me. She would argue with that word anyway. She'd say she created conditions for emotional growth or something. And she'd be right technically. But what she really did was something simpler and harder. She refused to let me be comfortable with my own walls. She knocked and knocked and knocked until I opened the door. Not because she thought I was broken, but because she knew I was hiding. And when I finally stopped hiding, she was standing right there, in her flannel pajamas and her 2 big glasses, with emergency tea and a bibliography, ready to be the most complicated, most passionate, most footnoted love of my life. A year after she moved into my room, we're lying in bed on a Sunday morning. She's reading, I'm pretending to read, but actually watching her. She catches me. What? Nothing, just looking. That's creepy. You literally observed me and Jake like wildlife and took notes. That was research. This is also research. She puts her book down and looks at me. Her hair is everywhere. Her glasses are crooked. There's a pen mark on her cheek from falling asleep writing again. Ethan, she says. Yeah? I'm glad you posted that roommate added. Even though it said no drama, especially because it said no drama. She leans over and kisses me. It's brief and warm, and she tastes like green tea because some things about Margot will never change. And I wouldn't want them to. If you told me 2 years ago that a feminist grad student would move into my apartment, wage a one-woman campaign against my emotional defenses, leave books in my shoes, critique my dishwasher technique, make me cry in front of my best friend, and then become the person I can't imagine my life without, I would have said you were insane. But here I am, in an apartment with equitable closet space and a framed academic paper on the wall, next to a live laugh love sign that has survived 12 assassination attempts, with a woman who argues with me about everything and makes me better at everything. And I have never been happier or more thoroughly cited. She's going to read this over my shoulder and have notes. She always has notes. I wouldn't have it any other way.